So, I've been talking to a number of friends lately that have been having troubles in their lives. And as I talk to my friends, I always find that talking to other people, you learn as much as if they ask you for advice, it's almost advice to yourself. It's like they ask you the things you need to know too. So it's this two-way street, and it got me thinking about, it's like all the answers have already been written, like thousands of years ago. If you pick up books that were written literally thousands of years ago and you read them, the information is as pertinent today as it was then. And yet the world was a completely different place. I mean, you think back a couple thousand years ago, what was the world like? There was nothing. I mean, nothing compared to what our society has now. People were farmers and business merchants. There wasn't all the different distractions and all the things that were tugging at you, that tug at you today, advertising, everyone having so much, being pushed from when you were born to succeed and to excel and to be the best you can be and make the most money you can and have the big house and the family and all that. Most of that wasn't there thousands of years ago, and yet the lessons that they were trying to teach are identical to the lessons we need to learn today. I just find that it's not discouraging to me. It's that I'm fascinated by the fact that if they couldn't do it then, how the heck do we do it now with so much more pressure on us to engage in a lifestyle or a way of life that we're told is the only way to live? So in a way, the message isn't any different, because back then it was the same thing. It was, don't pay attention to what your desires are, what you want to accomplish, or how powerful you are, all that. I mean, that's the same as it was then as it is now. But to me, it seems like today the pressures are so much greater because there's nothing in our daily lives, there's no alternative, it seems. Because we've been it's been drilled into us that we must live a certain way and we must look at things and give them value, when in actuality there is no value in those things. It's a perceived value. So the message to me, way back when, as it is today, is that this world that we live in, the society, the culture, the things that we're told are important, are not important at all. It's not that they shouldn't exist. It's that we shouldn't put our complete blind faith into them. The world is as it is, and we're in it. So we need to deal with the world as it is. But we don't have to completely 100% believe in it. We don't have to beat ourselves up when we don't live up to those ideals that we've been told we should live. I was having this discussion about ego with someone today, and they were talking about how, that they're beginning to see through the facade, if you will, of what ego is all about. Ego is, again, a good part of ego is created by us believing all these things that we should or shouldn't be. And the thing is that we've given over ourselves to sort of a global ego, not just a personal ego, but also sort of a globally induced ego of what is normal. We should be a certain way. We should act a certain way. We should do things in a way that coincides with the way the rest of people live. And this level of normal becomes our goal of, well, I can venture out of normal a little bit, but if I go too far, then I'm looked at as a pariah. I'm too far afield. people are going to, they're going to start to notice that I don't quite fit into, we don't quite buy into that concept of what everything should be like and how I should live. And as we were talking about ego, and I was saying, well, a lot of spiritual teachers, a lot of spiritual writings talked about trying to destroy the ego, trying to kill it, basically, to get rid of it. And I think that's a misnomer. I think that even though those words were written, I think it was a reaction to people being so invested in it that they had to be told the opposite. So if you're not going to embrace it, then you need to get rid of it. Well, really it's a tool, and it should be used as a tool. Because if we didn't have any sense of ego, if we had no sense of self, it'd be really difficult to do anything. And we're all imbued with these personal attractions to certain things. Like some of us love music. Some of us love to build things. Some of us love to do whatever. We have a natural, if we listen to ourselves, if we pay attention to what our interests are, we find that there are certain things we're drawn to and certain things we're not drawn to. And those seem to be not necessarily things that we've been taught or things that society has put up. And it's not like choosing something off a shelf. If someone is a musician, they didn't at some point in their life, I don't believe it, at some point in their life they said, you know what, I'd really like to be a musician. So I'm going to do everything I can to become a musician, and that's going to be a big part of my life. Now, there are people that do that, but I believe they had the tendency already to go in that direction. So all they were doing was picking up on what their natural abilities and talents and interests were and building on those. Whereas other people, I might even include myself in this, because I wanted to be in a band when I was in high school, of course. Everyone wanted to be in a band, right? So I got a guitar, and I learned how to play all the chords. But I couldn't make music. I could play the chords, but I couldn't play a song. I had no musical ability. So I even tried to be in a band. Didn't last very long, because the other people said, you're not that good. You're really not, there's something going on here that's not right. So when you can try and make yourself do certain things. If you don't have that sort of natural spark to do it, then whatever you're doing is forced, and it won't work out. So how this ties into ego is that, to me, ego is like the creative force of the universe. It's like at the core of our being, there's something that is asking us to do things and giving us opportunities to explore those things that we seem to have an affinity to. I can't name it, I can't describe it. It just seems that I can observe it in people. And we all know people that excel at something. I mean, just they're virtuosos. Whether it's music or anything else. Music's an easy one because, that's so clear cut. Or someone who could sing really well or whatever. It's almost like they couldn't not do it. If they tried their whole life not to do it, they'd still end up doing it. And those are the kind of things that I think some people will refer to that as ego. They'll refer to that as, this person is doing this because it makes them feel important, or that makes them feel better, or it elevates their status compared to everyone else. But again, I think that's a misnomer. I think that when someone is very good at something, they can't help but be very good at it. And you'll notice, I think, that when you see people that are very talented, they're also very humble about their talent. They're not sitting there saying, I'm the best, or I'm better than so-and-so. They just do what they do, and it comes out beautifully. That's that natural spark I'm talking about. And whether we call it ego or natural ability or whatever the word is, the words don't matter. Those are the kind of things that I think are important in everyone's life to pay attention to what is it that really makes me feel alive? What is it that I have an affinity to that just naturally seems to roll off my tongue or roll out during my day? What is it that I love to do? You know, when I was young, back in the 60s, I wanted to be a hippie. And I was a hippie, you know, in every sense of the word, I did everything hippies do. I lived on a commune for a while. I had long hair. I did drugs. I did all those things. But there was always something in me that I was fascinated with the way things work, how mechanisms work and how things are put together and how they're built. And so even though I tried to, like, you know, drop out, tune in, and all that stuff, I found myself working in high-tech companies. And it's like, I don't know what I was doing there, but all I knew was that when I did that, I felt so good. And what I loved was putting things together and building things. And when I built something, if it had wiring or tubes or anything, I would make that look like art. You know, the wires would like flow around things and the tubes would make beautiful patterns as they went through the machinery. And when I was done with it, it was like, it was a sense of accomplishment on a personal level. It wasn't that I had just built something for a company that they were going to sell. I didn't care what they did with it. What I cared about was how I did my job and the joy I got out of the actual physical work of it. And at the end of the day, I could look at it and go, I accomplished something. I have something to show for my efforts. And I found that all through my life that whenever I tried to do things that didn't have a tangible thing at the end of the day, that I wasn't satisfied, you know, because eventually through work I got into managing other people and I got into paperwork and I got into doing this and that and the other. And I never enjoyed that part of it. I'd always find myself back in the lab tinkering with things, even though that wasn't even my job anymore. But it was like, I can't not do this, you know?